Okay, so growing up, obviously, there's one thing I've always done, and that's, always do the devil's tango. But one thing I will say is that there are some really weird places that I've done it in and kind of regretted. But this one place, I gotta say, was one of the most odd because, well, I ended up doing it in a playground. And the way this happened, obviously, was really immature and really unhealthy, so don't ever do this. But before we get into the story, make sure you guys press that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Seriously, it means a lot when you guys press that subscribe button, and it means a lot when you guys support the channel. Other than that, let's just jump straight into this embarrassing story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to a really embarrassing video. So today's story all starts off back when I was in high school, and this was my grade 10 year. Now in grade 10, I will say this, I was a total F-boy. I'm not joking. If anything was walking, it was done. Other than men, because I'm not gay, but still, you guys understand what I mean. My hormones were acting through the roof, and I was just being dumb and immature the entire school year. And I remember one time when I was in high school, there was one girl that I always kind of, I guess, fancied. I don't know why, but this one specific girl was one of those girls that I felt like I could never pull. Like, for example, you guys know when you watch those movies and you see like that one girl that like the hero never ends up getting until he gets his superpowers? Well, me, the only superpower I had was my eggplant, and well, I guess in a way I never thought that that could work to pull this girl. But I remember one time I was sitting in my science class and I was just doing my science project, and this girl usually sat in front of me, and this girl was really hot, and one of the reasons why she was also so popular is because she was also in musical theater. For some reason in my high school, musical theater was like such a big deal, and usually it was the most attractive girls that would end up getting lead roles, and almost every year of my high school years, she was always getting the lead role in certain musicals. So me, obviously, I always found her really attractive because so did everyone else, and I guess it became a kind of a popular thing to, be attracted to this girl. But obviously in no way was I ever gonna get her attention because all I was known for was playing video games and doing the devil's tango. Anyways, like I was saying though, one time she sat in front of me in science class and I saw that she had no partner for a science project. For some reason, not a lot of people wanted to work with her because, well, even though she was really attractive, she wasn't, I guess, really smart. And me, obviously, me trying to be the nice guy and I guess trying to riz her up, I saw this as a golden opportunity to go up and talk to her and say, hey, like, what's going on? I heard you don't have a science partner. Is it cool if I maybe like work with you? Yeah, if you're down, sure. I will say though, I'm not really doing that well in this class. Oh no, it's cool. Like, I'm not either, but two heads are better than one, right? She ends up laughing and ends up actually giggling, and funny enough, me and her, we started working on the science project together, and it led to her telling me this. Hey, so what are you doing later on after school? I'm going home. I got work to do. I didn't work at this time, to be honest. I was playing Call of Duty. That was what I considered work, and it's funny nowadays because it's still kind of considered work for me, but you know what I mean. Going on from there, I remember basically she ends up telling me, oh, okay, well, I mean, if you're down, I was wondering if you wanted to, like, I don't know, maybe like hang out and like help me with the science project later after school. I ended up looking at her and said sure, and we ended up actually hanging out that day after school. But before we ended up hanging out, I will say this, a lot of people in my high school found out that I ended up getting a date with this girl, and everyone was freaking out. So many people were walking up to me trying to figure out how I did it, and a lot of girls were actually talking so much smack because, well, the chances were that I was just going to do the devil's tango and walk away. Even though that wasn't my intent. No, it definitely was my intention. I'm not even gonna lie to you. But going on with the story, I remember after school came around and me and her, we ended up meeting up at the front of the school, and we started just basically walking around the neighborhood. I lived in like a decent sized neighborhood. It was more of a city, but neighborhood, city, same stuff, different pile, right? And I remember as we were walking around, me and her, we ended up grabbing bubble tea and we ended up drinking and just talking about life, I guess. It's very bizarre to me because one of the conversations we were having is about how this girl, she was so popular, but for some reason in her own mind, she didn't realize it. Like, she always like told me how, like, it's really cool how I'm smart and stuff and how a lot of people know of me. But then I told her and said, do you realize like a lot of people know about you, right? Oh, like, what do you mean? You're basically the hottest girl in the school. No, I'm not. You know how many girls there are in the school? Yeah, I get that, but do you realize how many guys are into you? Yeah, I don't know. They're just weird. Like, what? Like, it's weird to me how, like, even nowadays when I meet up with like chicks from high school, they literally don't realize how popular they actually were, and they're like, oh nah, it was just high school. Like, no, you were popular, you were well known. You do realize like I was irrelevant in high school. Like it blows my mind how much they don't actually understand when it comes to like high school life, I guess. But that just goes to show to anyone that's in high school right now, the people that are popular or considered popular in your school, chances are after high school, they're gonna be little to nothing. Anyways, going on from there, I remember basically me and her, we ended up doing the whole thing walking around. And for some reason, when I told her that she was basically the most attractive girl in the school, she really started to fall for me. She really started to say things like, oh, like no one's ever been so honest before like you. And like, oh, like no one's like really really been like real with me like you are. To be fair, I guess a lot of the guys in my school were just telling her what she wanted to hear. But as for me, I just told her the goddamn truth of what I was seeing and observant of. Basically showed the facts because her Instagram DMs were always filled with guys in our school trying to like rizz her up. And I guess I was the one guy that never did that. Anyways, one thing led to another. It was getting really late at night. It was around 9 p.m. and I remember me and her, we were still like basically hanging out. And I told her if, you know, she wanted to come back to my place, but she said that she was not allowed to go to people's houses super late at night. And I respected that. Honestly, even though we were high schoolers, we still respected our parents' rules. I know that a lot of people don't do that nowadays, but still I did. And so did she, I guess. And then one thing led to another. We ended up going to a playground. Now this playground was a city playground. It was like really well known throughout my city. And basically a lot of kids would go on there and play, except after 5 p.m. because obviously people would go home, and it was also a school night that night. And I remember me and her, we ended up going to the playground, and we ended up basically like, you know, just hanging out and just sitting down on the playground like normal, I guess, teenagers would. I don't know, a lot of teenagers just go to the playgrounds to like, you know, hit their vape. But me personally, I didn't vape back in high school. I was actually normal. So I remember I basically just sat there and just kind of just ended up talking to her. But one thing led to another. When we were sitting down beside each other inside the playground, we ended up getting really close, and she leaned into me. And when she leaned into me, I did what I had to do, and I kissed her. Me and her kissed, and we actually ended up making out, and then I ended up laying down on top of her. And well, you guys kind of understand the picture of where this is going. Basically, me and her, we were going to do the devil's tango. But right before it actually happened, I remember she looks over at me and says, "Baba, I don't want to do it right on the playground." Yeah, that's cool. Wait, where do you want to do it then? I want to be like undercover. So like, do you want to like go in the slide? Now in this playground, there was one of those like really big swirly slides that you guys mostly see in like most cartoons and most playgrounds, if anything. And I remember it was super big and it was made of like plastic. It wasn't like one of those metal ones. It was like one of those really plastic ones with the bolts that like may spark you sometimes if you like have enough friction going down it. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but it was one of those slides that sucked. And I remember me and her, we decided to basically go inside the slide and stop midway through because there was a section where it just kind of laid out. And me and her, we ended up doing the devil's tango in the slide. The amount of times I got sparked and my eggplant even got sparked and electrocuted was so many times, but I guess it kind of spiced up the devil's tango. Okay, no, in reality it was just super painful, but hey, at the end of the day I was still doing it, wasn't I? And one thing led to another. I remember me and her, we ended up basically doing our thing, but out of nowhere security ended up walking around the playground. Now usually, like I said, this was a city park and it was a well-known city park, and when security comes around, well, chances are if you're doing something really naughty in the playground, you're gonna get in trouble. So I remember me and her, we ended up basically hearing like people walking around, and we saw a flashlight at the end of like the slide, and me and her, we just kind of sat in there, and me with my total eggplant out, I'm just like kind of sitting there like kind of worried. But this girl thought this was a perfect opportunity to start sucking on my eggplant, so I'm just kind of sitting there like, okay, great, so you're doing that while I'm on security watch? I don't know, it was super awkward and super weird. But honestly, after like 10 minutes later, we ended up basically seeing no one around and we heard nothing, so me and her thought it was a perfect moment to basically go down the slide and basically put our clothes back on. Little did I know, when I ended up basically going down the slide and pulling up my pants, there were 2 security guards right at the entrance that saw me and her, and well, let's just say the 2 security guards ended up calling our parents and we got in severe trouble. Honestly, word got out to the school that I ended up doing it with her on the playground. She denies it, but me, honestly, I didn't care. I ended up just denying it with her because, well, I didn't want to ruin her high school reputation. But hey, that was like, what, 8 years ago now? She has no high school reputation anymore, so why not tell the story? Anyways, guys, that is basically it for today's embarrassing story. Make sure you guys press that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Seriously, it means a lot when you guys do this. And like I always say, just follow for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys.